Today we're going to be doing a video about the BMAT, or the Biomedical Admissions Tests. Now, the BMAT is the second of the admissions tests that people take, as well as the UCAT, and the BMAT is usually a test designated for people tend to think higher scoring universities, so things like UCL, Imperial, Oxbridge, they all require the BMAT. So the BMAT is usually quite a popular test, although it's not as popular as the UCAT, because the UCAT obviously is a test that is run by a lot more universities than the BMAT is. The BMAT is currently sort of a much older paper than the UCAT is. UCAT's sort of online, it's computerized, BMAT is pen and paper, and it's very much sort of the old style of medical admissions test. Now, we're going to be going through pretty much 5 tips to help you guys do well on the BMAT. For me, I found the BMAT a lot harder than the UCAT. Anyway, I hope that you guys find this tips useful, and I'm going to go through exactly what I would do differently as well. I'll do another video about what I got and why I got what I got, potentially anything I've done differently, but today is going to be all about doing tips, little nibbits of advice to help you guys. Awesome, so tip number 1 I would say is, same as all my other revision videos, time management. The BMAT is heavily time pressured, I would say, similar to the UCAT, and they're both really time pressured exams. What I would say with the BMAT is, because it's not on the computer, it's a little bit harder to have that timing sort of going in your head, because on the computer obviously you've got a little time on the top right corner, you can always dart your eyes up. The BMAT is pretty much like a public exam. It's pen and paper, so you'll have your clock at the front of the hall on a big screen. Now, I'm saying this, I'm not quite sure how it's changing. Obviously, with the pandemic going on, the BMAT might change its testing methods this year. I'm not sure if it will. It might do so, and if so, it'll be good for you guys to have it online because it's easier to do online. But obviously, if it's pen and paper, you need to make a habit out of looking up at the clock. So take the same tips I had for you in our revision videos, get a big clock when you're practicing, set an alarm for every minute so that you get into the habit of moving on. The BMAT is again another exam where it's super easy to get stuck on a question and just not do anything for the rest of the paper. And you need to get into the habit of having 1 minute pass and moving on. For me, I had this problem and it was so annoying because there were questions at the end of the paper that I knew I could do and I missed out on them. Unfortunately, I missed out marks because of that. So please do move on once your time for that question is up. They won't tell you, you've got 1 minute for this question. They'll expect you to have revised and come up with a time management, system in your head. So make sure you're doing that and you're sticking to that time management. Alright, number 2, the BMAT is the only admissions test which tests actual academic sciences, or maths as well. So what you need to be doing is revising sciences, obviously. And the thing about the BMAT is it's not Edexcel, it's not OCR, it's created by Cambridge Testing, and now they could put content from any specification up. So they could put Edexcel material, they could put OCR material, they could put whatever other boards there are, I can't quite think of them right now, AQA, WJUC, Cambridge, they could put anything up there. So you need to be looking at GCSE, the specification. This should be pretty easy for you guys because if you're taking the BMAT, you definitely take chemistry, you most probably take biology. The only thing you probably don't take is physics, but the physics isn't too challenging, it's quite easy, you should be able to do it. And maths you also probably take. Even if you don't take maths, the maths is also super easy, it's not too difficult, it's just GCSE. The only issue coming into revision is that you need to look at every single board. So if you haven't covered AQA biology, go look at the specification. It's most probably got everything, or pretty much something quite similar to what you're studying, but just go check it out just in case. Another useful thing is, I'll put a link in the description below, is the BMAT website gives a specification to what you need to know. They also produce a online textbook, I believe, which is a sort of like a CGP style textbook. It used to be officially run by CGP, but now it's sort of half CGP, half normal textbook. It's basically got like a page on each topic, can come up in the BMAT. So like, if you imagine if you're A-level, if you're doing OCR biology, it's basically like a textbook, but for the BMAT, and it's got every topic in there, it's got a page, it's got information on each topic, what you need to know, it explains it, you can pretty much revise from that textbook alone. So I'll link it down below, it's very useful, go and use it, they give it to you free of charge online. Go use it, why would you not use it? It's probably the most effective and probably the best revision tool you'll have for the science sections of the BMAT. The next thing I'd say is to please practice this on pen and paper. Now, I made the mistake of doing this online for my revision because, UCAT revision online was super helpful, and so they're going to give you a pen and paper test, so you've better revise for pen and paper, which means that you've got to be doing a lot of questions on from a book. So you know, when you've bought all those UCAT books that you shouldn't be using really, because you should be using Medify for your only revision resource in UCAT. For BMAT, you can go and buy all the BMAT books you want and do them, because that's pen and paper. It's probably going to be the best way to revise, because you know you'll be used to that environment, doing it on pen and paper, turning the page, working out in the spaces. With revision papers, the BMAT publish papers obviously every year, but the styles of the papers change in terms of how many questions they give per section. The sections they give, they've been changing, so almost like your A-level specification changes, the BMAT changes every year. So the BMAT do give past papers, unlike the UCAT who don't give, so you can access those. I would recommend, again, doing those regularly, as well as any BMAT books you can get, because the best way to practice for your BMAT is to just do past paper questions, as well as revising the science, potentially. The only revisional resource I would recommend that is online is 6med. So Ali Abdal, who is a famous YouTuber, medic YouTuber, who you guys probably know about, runs a company called 6med, and he publishes BMAT resources, which are very helpful, obviously. And they're all online, so you can take them online. I wouldn't recommend relying on this resource. The only reason I would recommend getting this resource is to take advantage of the sections for section 1, section 2, so that you can do practice for those sections individually. And the only other reason I recommend using his resource really is to take advantage of the past papers. So he has loads of past papers on that platform from pretty much, I think, 1990s as well, it goes up to. So you've got loads of past papers there. You can have a go at them online, and yeah, I'd recommend doing that. But the main thing I would say is, please, if you can, avoid using online resources for the BMAT. Do it all on pen and paper, print them off and write them using a pen or pencil, whatever you'd be using in the BMAT. The ultimate aim of revision is to replicate the exam environment as best possible. So that's what you want to do in the BMAT, UCAT, your A levels, replicate the exam environment. So you want to be doing it on pen and paper. The next thing I do is to kill two birds with one stone. Combine it with your UCAT revision. While you're revising for the UCAT, obviously the UCAT has no science section, it has no essay section, but it does have non-verbal reasoning. This is the whole paper is non-verbal reasoning, apart from situational judgment. So what I would recommend is, I would highly recommend keeping in the back of your mind BMAT while you're revising for the UCAT. So when you're revising for UCAT, take a glance at some BMAT questions as well, look at the BMAT specification, so that when you're preparing for the UCAT, you can also think about this, sort of revision when you're preparing for the BMAT. What I mean is to say that when you're practicing for the UCAT, don't just forget about everything you've learned the day of the UCAT exam once you've done. Keep it in the back of your mind, because it's going to be very helpful coming to the BMAT to have this non-verbal reasoning skills. And the main sections that can be applied to the BMAT from UCAT are quantitative reasoning, decision making and abstract reasoning, and also verbal reasoning as well, really. Everything apart from situational judgment. These sections all come up in BMAT section 1, they all pretty much eat the same style question. I would highly recommend to make sure you know what you're doing and to think about the BMAT when you're revising for UCAT. Final thing is the essay section, the unique part of the BMAT almost. The UCAT tests no sort of essay. Your A levels are unlikely to test essays. They might have like long 6 markers or 10 markers depending on the exam board you're doing, but this is essentially an essay, and it gives you a statement or a question. So for example, it'll give you a quote and it'll say, what do you think of this quote? Or it'll give you a question. So example, in the 21st century, do you think that healthcare is more important than finances to an individual? And it'll ask you to write an essay about that. Now, it sounds difficult to revise for, but not really. If you look at past papers, every year they give you 3 options to write an essay about. One of them will be medicine related, one of them will be science related, and one of them will be philosophical related. What you want to do is to identify one of these questions or one of these themes that you want to write an essay about, because from those 3 you can then prepare effectively for that question. It doesn't have to be the medicine related one. It might be. You could select the science one if you're particularly interested in science and chemistry and all those things and your developments in science. It could be an interesting one to write. If you've done philosophy A level or GCSE, the smart thing to do would be to go for this philosophy one, because you're revising for philosophy anyway. But yeah, whichever one you find easier, go for it. Just because you're doing philosophy A level doesn't mean you have to do the philosophy one. Just whichever one you find more comfortable, prepare for that one. Which, when I say prepare, I mean write essays for that, read up about common topics within those themes, memorize quotes, important quotes that can be applied to anything. So not too specific quotes, but just general quotes that you could apply to any question. So the BMAT essay is written on an A4 paper with quite widely spaced out lines, and as you know, you can't go over that. They won't give you another sheet of paper, they won't let you write on the back. Once you finish all those lines, you're done. So plan out how much you're going to write, because you want to cover every point concisely. It seems quite time pressured, but it really isn't. It takes about 5 minutes to fill out the A4 sheet of paper. So make sure you spend about 50% of the time planning. And that seems like a lot, but no, spend 50% planning, because writing will take a few. Once you're done with that, I would say to have a go. 10, 20 different essays, write them all out. Now the issue is with marking them, obviously it's going to be difficult for you to mark it. I would recommend going to your English teacher or to your medical application advisor and asking them to mark it. If they can't mark it, go and find your parents, ask them to at least have a look over it, and potentially find any medic friends that you've got, any medical students that you know, ask them if they could be happy enough to mark them. I'm sure they would be. What I would say is obviously that a lot of services online offer marking BMAT essays. They're quite expensive though, and they only offer like 5 to 10 essays to mark, and it costs like £10-20. So what I'll do is I will put my email address here, and I'll also put my Instagram here. If you want your BMAT essays marked free of charge, just send them to me. I'll send them back to you with some tips and potentially further more questions that you could try out. Obviously, I don't want people to be discriminated off on their BMAT because they can't afford to pay for marking charges. So please do just send these to me, and I will send them back to you free of charge, marked with score and everything. Because I feel like it's not fair to have people, not doing one on BMAT just because they can't afford to have their essays marked. So please do send them here, and I'll be more than happy to send them back to you. Awesome. Hopefully that video is helpful. BMAT's probably quite far away now, so you've got some time, unless you're taking the sittings in February, I think. Yep, there's one in February, so unless you're taking the February one, if you are, good luck. Send BMAT essays to me if you need any last minute ones marked. Free of charge, remember, these BMAT essays I'll be marking, so you don't have to pay anything, I'll just send them back to you. I'll be doing some more videos on the BMAT in terms of more in detail videos about each section, but again I'll keep them nice and short, because from what I've gathered, my longer videos are not getting too many, they seem to be just a bit too long, so I'll try and keep them nice, short and sweet, like you should be keeping your BMAT essays. Yeah, I'll keep it nice and short. I'll be releasing a few more as time goes on, and yeah, hope you found that useful, and I'll see you guys in the next. Hopefully you enjoy that. Go like and subscribe. Very important to me to keep going, get to 100 subscribers for that special revision video to come out. Anyway, more videos, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Awesome.